Welcome to another episode of the Hallis Huddle Podcast. Here are your hosts, Rob Schwartz and Justin Onayemi, two Bears fans who decided talking into a microphone was better than shouting at their television.
All right, welcome in, Hallis Huddlers, to an emergency episode of the Hallis Huddle Podcast. I guess technically this is episode 35, season 2. We'll call it the Kerry Blasingame episode, right? Like he's the hot name at number 35, or are we going Neil Anderson?
Neil Anderson, man. Neil Anderson was my childhood, so that's my guy right there. But it is an emergency episode. We did mock 2.0. I think we could do mock 3.0 now, but now let's just break down this big news.
Yeah, huge news in the NFL. Huge news for the Chicago Bears. The Bears trade the first overall pick to the Carolina Panthers. In that trade is a multitude of picks and DJ Moore. Not something I thought would be on the table. I did not think anybody but Brian Burns could possibly be available. What's your thoughts?
So I love the trade for the Chicago Bears, and there are so many reasons why. We're going to get into all of them, but let's just look at even them bringing in DJ Moore. It reminds us of how Josh Allen needed Stephon Diggs, how Jalen Hurts needed A.J. Brown, how Tua needed Tyler and Jalen. And I'm not saying hope Fields is on a similar trajectory as all those quarterbacks, but now at least he has the weaponry that would allow him to reach those levels. Because even as we were talking through things, you kind of know what you have in Mooney. You hope you have something in Claypool, but this gives you somebody who that's a legitimate number one receiver. And then I was so excited when I heard his name in the trade, not even knowing he still has 3 years left on his deal at an affordable price for a number one receiver, which is $52 million. We can break that down a little further, but imagine you're trying to get him as a free agent. You're paying a 5-year deal close to $100 million for a guy of his talent. So really thrilled. And in those other players we just mentioned, like Stephon Diggs and A.J. Brown, the teams that acquired them were giving up massive amounts of picks. Here, he was a throw-in as you received even more. What are your thoughts, Rob?
Yeah, so there's some loose reports that DJ Moore was the deciding factor of this trade. Like he had to be included, or Chicago was gonna, keep waiting to see what else was out there. The 2025 second round pick, again, loose reporting is that the Carolina Panthers wanted to give up the 2025 first instead. So they must have came up with this agreement to drop that to a second. I have a feeling that there was I think I also heard that the other second round pick was involved, which actually would have been identical to the trade that I mocked back in February 16. But that was also taken out. So instead, the Bears get the 9th overall pick. They get the Carolina Panthers' second round pick, but it's their later one, which I can't remember who they acquired it from. But that is pick number 61. Then Chicago has their.
Was that from the McCaffrey trade, maybe?
Oh, you know what? It probably was. Yeah, that makes sense. So that then they have another pick at 64. So that gives them 5 picks in the top 65 picks.
And that huge first round pick next year in the 2024, which yes. I don't care. I'm guessing they moved up to 1 to take Bryce Young. Maybe. But they gave away their number one receiver. And they were already a team that, needed back and aren't ready to win necessarily. So that 2024 pick is likely to be a top 10 pick. Wouldn't you say?
it could be a top 5. I mean, depending on how things go for them, he has no wide receiver to throw to now. He doesn't have a second round pick to add one. They got rid of Christian McCaffrey, as you mentioned. So there's your other top weapon on offense. They're basically going to be tanking in 2024 or 2023. Whether it's Bryce Young, whether it's CJ Stroud, whether it's Anthony Richardson, whether it's Will Levis, it doesn't matter. But what's awesome about this is moving back to 9, it sets Ryan Poles up into a very, great situation. So he's either going to be still picking in the top 10, or depending on how things fall, if all 4 quarters in this top 10, then Ryan Poles has made it known that he thinks that there's between 6 and 8 blue chip players, and you want to get that blue chip player. And I don't think position matters. So I'm going to throw it out there right now. I don't think if they have Jackson Smith, Najigba as one of those 6 to 8 players, and he's the only one left, I don't think they're going to go draft for need. They're still going to take JSN. But in that situation, 1, 2, maybe even 3 of those 6 to 8 guys could be there for them at 9. That's huge.
How many of those 6 to 8 blue chippers do you think are one of those 4 quarterbacks?
So if I'm Ryan Poles, I'm not marking them as blue chip players at all, just because I don't have any plans on taking them. Because he already, and in that case too, he already hinted he had to have been blown away. So I don't think he views any of them as blue chip candidates, even if he were thinking quarterback. This kind of gives you an idea of what they think of the quarterback class.
So here's the thing. The Bears were 1-7, I believe, in 1-score games. And as fans who were watching each and every one of those games closely, we know they were within range of winning 2 of those, let's say. 3 of those. And had they'd be looking at the number 7 pick, number 8 pick. So as I said on the show yesterday, what he set up in terms of cap space was done with intention. The draft pick we ended up kind of getting through luck. But in his mind, he was going to come into this with a lot of cap space. He was going to come into this with probably a top 10 pick is probably what he's thinking. He still has the cap space. He still has the top 10 pick. But look at all the other stuff he's now acquired because they did luck into that first pick. And so, I think you're sitting at 9. You still watch closely how things are unfolding. You could trade up a little bit if you really, really think there's a guy you need. One other thing that would be attractive to me, if you back from 9, let's say only 3 of the 4 quarterbacks are gone by 9, and there's just one sitting there. Maybe there's a team that wants to trade up, kind of how the Bears did to get Fields, and now you're acquiring even more. And it won't be the kind of haul you just got, but it'll be value. And really, at the end of this, I'm very impressed with Ryan Poles. March 10th, 2023 is the day that he pulled this trade. March 10th, 2022. Do you know what he did then, Rob?
I do. I'm not going to take your thunder though, so go ahead.
No, I'm glad you know. Trivia question. Go ahead.
Yeah, so he traded Khalil Mack officially to the Los Angeles Chargers. I almost did it again.
Years returning. So that was the mark of, oh boy, this is different. He's ballsy, and he wants to set his own way of this rebuild. And now again, a year to the day, you see another huge move, and really a sign of what could be to come. So I can't wait till March 10th, 2024. Maybe that's when he pulls the trade that locks in the fact that they're going to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. That'll be a little early for that.
I don't know. I don't know what else he could give up to get another first-round pick next year. But hey, he's Ryan Poles. He's proven to work, miracles here.
They still have theirs, Rob. They still have theirs.
I know, but I mean, you said But you said we were going to make a move, so I'm trying to think of what move he can make to like really lock that in.
To move up, but no, I mean that'll be later. It won't be on March 10th, 2024. But he's really seems like he has a plan. The other thing about this, and we didn't know if it was a bluff, but him saying he wanted to pull off the trade before free agency, that caught a few people off guard, and now he's done that. And so, knowing his return, knowing where he'll be positioned in the draft, both in the first round and later, and knowing he's addressed a huge need of getting that number one receiver, which we didn't really know how that was going to be done. And now, with all that money, he can enter free agency, knowing kind of how the draft is setting up.
Getting DJ Moore was kind of big. I was shocked to see his name involved. I've never been like a DJ Moore is an elite receiver. I'm not going to say like he proved to be an AJ Brown type at this point, but we also have to remember the type of quarterbacks that they've had in Carolina during his career. I mean, it's been just like a complete carousel of below average passers to just backups and, guys who really aren't helping his game. One thing that stood out to me was his catch rate is actually less than 60% for his career. That's a little troublesome, but in the last 4 years, he's had 3 years over 1,100 yards. And last year he was under 1,000, but he still came away with 7 touchdowns. Like, he is going to be the guy that Justin Fields can depend on to throw it deep and actually catch the ball, unlike Velus Jones, Dante Pettis, guys who just can't come down with those deep balls.
Well, and imagine what this does for Darnell Mooney. I mean, that's a player who Justin Fields to develop a chemistry with. But you now have a pretty formidable pass catching crew when you look at DJ Moore and what he's capable of, Darnell Mooney as your 2, Chase Claypool as your 3, Cole Kmet. I don't have to tell you about what he's capable of, Rob. And they still have to figure out running back. We don't know where they're going. But you're looking at weapons now that if you can build through the trenches and protect Justin Fields, we could really see quite a turnaround in 1 year's time. Now, we keep saying it's more than a 1 year thing, but this was a big swing because it helps right away. It puts them in a position where, again, they were the worst team in the league by record. And when you have the number 1 pick, it normally you ain't that close to nothing good. Here they are now sitting at 9, and I almost feel like they could just take best player available. I don't know, Rob. I still think now maybe an edge rusher could be what they're targeting. I doubt Tyree Wilson.
Yeah, you said it right.
I doubt Tyree Wilson makes it that far. But Luca Van Ness is a possibility, local kid. But we didn't talk about on our mock 2.0, and I want to get your response right now. Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter. I have tried to consistently be this guy that, I talk about things and I try to stick to morals and things like that. He hasn't been charged with anything. There were character issues and red flags even prior to this new stuff coming out, which might make him fall. If he's there at 9, and again, free agency still has to happen. We don't know if they're going to go out and get Draymond Jones. What are your thoughts on if Jalen Carter will be available at 9 and if that's someone the Bears should be considering?
Jalen Carter could be there at 9 at this point. My fear is that, well, not fear, but as we get closer to the draft, I'm going to expect that some additional information is going to be made, whether it's public or whether it's to teams, as they go through this process leading up to the draft. There's more information is going to come out. And if that information isn't great, he's going to fall. If that information is kind of like iffy, I mean, we saw George Pickens fall all the way down to the second. I had to get his name in. It's going to be one of those things where we're just going to have to wait and see. But if he's there at 9, you have to consider him. I said I wouldn't touch him in the top 15. Depending on how the draft falls, you have to at least consider him. You can't completely scratch him off your board. And then you're going to have to go to your rankings. Where do you have him? It's going to depend on free agency, who they get at that position. But you're right. It opens them up to take whoever they think is the best player, regardless of position. Like I said, I think it could still be JSN. You said it could be an end. It could be a D tackle. If they don't think it's him, maybe it's Cansey out of Pittsburgh. Or you go offensive line. I mean, you could go Paris Johnson there. You could go Skoronski there. There's so many avenues that they could go. The only positions I don't go ahead. The only positions I don't foresee is running back, but I don't even know if I want to take that completely off the table because maybe you go. I'm blanking on the kid's name from out of Texas. Yeah, Robinson. Yeah. Maybe you go with him.
Well, we were talking about how big it would be to add a Saquon Barkley to the team, and if you get one on a rookie deal, that's even better. But that is a bit early to take a running back. But here we are talking as if this is a team that's got a complete roster now. But free agency is going to matter. They have tons of money. Something you said I wanted to ask a follow-up on, and now it slipped my mind. Oh, actually, it's not something you said, but I got to ask you this, though. One thing that does, I won't say worry me, but concerns me a bit, is that they're currently slated to pick at 9 and then not again until 54, correct?
Correct.
That's a lot of picks in between there. And we know Ryan Poles turned, I think, 5 picks into 11 last year. Is that about right? So
yes,
no doubt in my mind, if he feels that it's important or that it's a need of theirs, they would move up. But I can't really imagine that they'll be picking only at 9 and then again at 54. So we're going to see probably some movement and things like that. But that might be to get your center, to get your tackle. Who knows? There's a lot of options. But the fact that they were able to get a number 1 receiver and draft capital in the future blew me away.
Yeah, you're right. So it is 54. And like you said, if they see somebody that they think is worth grabbing, I mean, now they currently have 10 picks right now. So, I mean, you could easily package one of those lower picks, 61, 63, 64, one of those 3 picks with maybe one of like your 4th rounders. Or maybe you throw in your 3rd because they have 2 thirds also. And you use one of those 2 picks to move up into those like mid 30s, upper 40s, somewhere in that range.
Well, now that you say it that way, maybe you're packaging those players to get a Bijan Robinson after you've drafted Paris Johnson. I mean, there are so many things they can now do. And I really want to just, again, credit Poles with he has a plan. He sticks to it, even as stuff is leaking, which, again, I don't know how much he was involved in that, letting it happen, not letting it happen. This is playing out really, really beautifully.
I know everyone's still down on the Chase Claypool trade, but if you look at it this way, had these 2 guys gone to free agency and you got both of them, like, that'd be huge. People would be going crazy. And I still think that Claypool in this wide receiver class is worth that high of a 2nd round pick. He's still only 25 years old. And by the way, so is DJ Moore. So you have a really young wide receiver core, but young, experienced wide receiver core. And 3 of them have eclipsed 1,000 yards at least once in their career. So the other way that maybe they can obtain some more picks, not necessarily before 54, is like you mentioned earlier, you hinted at it, like if there's one of those quarterbacks there and someone wants to move up to 9 and they were willing to move back to 11 for Tennessee or 16 for
Is that
Washington? I mean, there's other teams. Yeah, Washington. Excuse me. They could maybe get like a third rounder for that, depending on how far back they go. So the opportunity, the situation that Ryan Poles is in right now is exciting for Bears fans. It's got to be exciting for him and Ian Cunningham too. Like they must just they still have $75 million after the signing. So DJ Moore is only going to account for $19.9 million this year, which is a high number. Let's be honest, it's a high number. But next year it's 15.8. The year after that, it's 14.8. They have him for 3 years. You're getting him in the prime of his career. This is exciting time for Chicago Bears fans. Like it has to be. They're the best worst place team ever, and this all just happened. Like if there is a real narrative out there that like conspiracy that there's a script being written year after year after year as we see it recycled with the possibility of Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets just like Brett Favre, then Chicago Bears fans look like their future is looking really bright. Thanks, Roger Goodell.
Well, I don't know. I don't think the script at all, but the only slightly negative thing I heard, and I honestly don't think this is a very informed opinion, was when word came out that he could get 2 future firsts, not speaking of the swap. Okay. So the 1 and 9, we don't count that as you got a first, because you're actually going back in the round. But that 2024 first, and let's say a 2025 first, and some people saying, well, why didn't he get that? When you and I were talking about that and saying, even with Carolina as the team we were targeting, I asked you specifically, okay, let's say you can get their, I think we threw in their second, the 61, 2024 first, 2025 first. And then I said, well, if we're going to get Brian Burns, you got to just take that 2025 straight off the board altogether. They got DJ Moore, and we just explained is very, very incredible. And now that 2025 first becomes a second, you're still pretty in good shape. I mean, I don't know how good they can be in 2 years. But again, if they're top 10 pick, top 15, that second round pick is about where you got Kyler Gordon and Brisker. I mean, you can still get valuable players. And at that time, hopefully it's to add to a playoff contender roster. The only one thing, though, hearing that DJ Moore has 3 years on his deal, he'll be wanting more money right when you need to pay Fields. So that's something they'll have to figure out. But that's a great problem to have.
Yeah, agreed. Jinx. Yeah, so I don't know, I forgot where I was going with this. Before I get to the point that I just lost, I do have to make sure you mentioned Cole Kmet earlier, and I forgot to mention this in our podcast last night, and I have to mention it now. I'm losing love for Cole Kmet. I recently found out that he does not know and has never watched the movie Billy Madison, and I know he's a lot younger than us, but that is extremely, extremely disappointing and unacceptable. So I don't know. He's moved down a little bit in my rankings here.
So let me just pile on, and it's not specifically against him, but I already mentioned a potential draftee, Luca Van Ness. Do you know anything about him?
Yeah.
So he's from Barrington. So he's a local kid. I believe grew up a Bears fan. Do you know who he's dating? I know that's not this type of podcast.
Is it Sanborn's sister?
No, it's Cole Kmet's
Sanborn's sister.
It's Cole Kmet's sister.
Cole Kmet's sister. It was somebody's sister. I don't have a
problem with that. Whatever. But if things go sour, I don't know. Now is that an issue in the locker room? You know what I mean? So, but anyway, another good problem to have because he looks like the real deal as an edge rusher. There's a lot of edge rushers in this draft.
Yes, it's very deep.
So I guess we will have to do a mock 3.0. We can wait a little bit. I mean, because honestly, hold on. We could wait till free agency plays out a bit and just do the draft.
That's what I was going to say. We'll just do a mock draft.
Yeah, because
we can get a little bit more.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we can get a little more detailed too as we're doing it because we have more time just focusing on that.
And we talked about in the mock 2.0 two things. One, we weren't saying this is what we think will happen, and how just one change, it's like the butterfly effect. One little change could have a huge impact. Because now we weren't even able to trade with Carolina in our mock draft, and nor would I think we have thought we could have gotten DJ Moore. But this has changed everything, and for the better, I think, as a Bears fan. So really exciting news. Can't wait to find out what's going to happen March 10th next year and the year after that. Because it's a special day for Ryan Poles, apparently. I don't know.
He's a big Nintendo fan. He likes Mario. It's March 10th is Mario Day.
I had no clue about that. I mean, I know March 14th is Pi Day and, things like that. But
yeah, so it's MAR for March and then 10 for the IO. And apparently Nintendo dubbed this Mario Day back in like 2016. Tristan, my oldest, taught me about this today when he came home from school.
Hey, you just taught me, so thank him for me. But there we go, Mario Day. Every year, Poles is going to have something up his sleeve on Mario Day. So really exciting news. Hopefully Bears fans are getting pumped up for what's to come. And I can't really understand how you could be a Bears fan and not be impressed with Ryan Poles, but I'm very impressed.
Me too. He's proving me right since he was the guy that I wanted before they even hired him.
I remember you. I don't know. You probably are keeping your receipts, but I do remember you saying that.
Oh, I got him.
Although you wanted Dable.
I did want Dable, who, if I remember correctly, didn't he win Coach of the Year this year?
I'm not going to respond, but all I'm saying is they wouldn't have the number one pick to then have made this trade. That's how much Poles knows his stuff. He's like, well, if I hire him, he could win too many games in the first year. All right, Rob, this was a good one, man.
Yeah, I have nothing else. I have nothing else regarding the trade. I do want to say that, I know Justin and I are broadcasting remotely. These things are probably going to happen more often as news hits. We're going to try to touch base on it. We might not always be able to. We do have lives outside of the podcast. So again, we're going to do what we can as quickly as we can. I am trying to line up a guest who covers the Carolina Panthers. I'd like to get their take on it. I'd like to hear who they think Carolina might be drafting. And I want to get more information on how they, when I say they, the Panthers fan base views DJ Moore, and also just maybe like how they view this trade. Did they win? Did they lose? Was it a win-win? So I'm setting that up. I was trying to get him on tonight. It did not work scheduling wise. If Justin can't get on, and I might have to do his based on his schedule, maybe I'll just do an interview with him. But we'll get something together.
Well, I would love to be a part of it if I can. I know we're a Bears podcast, but my goodness, I mean, this is so good for the Bears. Now, granted, if they get there, they're going to obviously have a chance to get a quarterback who they think is a generational talent. And that's something that we in Chicago shouldn't really speak to. But we know, seeing it done against us, that it's something that matters. And you would give up a lot to get that guy. But I'm surprised at how much they did give up. And I'm not sold that they're going to hit it. But maybe it's win-win, like you said, because if they get their guy who's the stud QB for 10 years, who brings them to the playoffs multiple years, they're happy with that. And I already think we kind of discussed how much this could mean to the Bears. So it's really exciting.
It is.
We didn't huddle up or anything, man.
All right. We didn't. We got right in there. We didn't have time for a huddle. This is the 2-minute drill. This is the hurry up offense.
All right. Well, we're still going to bear down, though.
We are. Bear down.